Hello everybody, Christian from Treasure Town here, and today we're going to be doing a complete overview on the $10,000 bill. Seems crazy that these even existed, but I wanted to kind of give you a picture of the very first ones that were made, as well as the more recent ones. They're definitely one of those things that you don't think about them, but when you do, there's actually a lot more information out there than you might realize. So it's the highest denomination paper money that was ever used to be, or issued to be used in circulation. There was a $100,000 bill that I might do a video on in the future. That was with Woodrow Wilson's portrait, but that was not used actually. These were the $10,000 were actually, purported to have been used occasionally in circulation. These notes were mainly focused on exchange between banks, whereas the 100,000 was only, but some, didn't manage to make it out and circulate significantly. They started with the large size notes in 1878. It was a United States note featuring Andrew Jackson, who kind of is all over the currency. He's on the 10 in some cases. He's now on the 20, but he was also on the very first $100,000 bill. And all of these have been redeemed and destroyed. So this is a fake reproduction, but it's just still indicative and illustrative of what the bills would have looked like. So I just figured I would include it. There's none of these that are out there. Similarly, in 1882, there was also an Andrew Jackson $10,000 gold certificate. These actually have two that are known. I believe that they're held in Federal Reserve Bank museums. So it's not like anybody is going to own any of these. They would be astronomically valuable. And these, they're worth $10,000. They can be spent for $10,000, obviously worth a lot more. But that's the big difference. Whereas our next note, the 1900 $10,000 gold certificate, is the only bill that has really been demonetized. The reason for this is that there was a fire at the building where there were a lot of these redeemed notes being stored. So what happened is the workers threw tons of them out into the street, and they were picked up by pedestrians, which means that a lot of today's examples either show smoke from the fire or water damage from the fire response, but they're still actually expensive despite not being, able to be used for $10,000 today. They probably start around $1,000. They might range up to $18,000. In really worn shape, you might be able to get them for below $1,000, but that's probably the most affordable note by far that we'll be talking about today in the $10,000 denomination. Just kind of a really interesting history there. And then our last one, there's very little information or good photos of it, so I apologize for the poor quality, but is a 1918 Salmon Chase $10,000 Federal Reserve note. We'll be talking about him a little bit more in the future. There's only 5 of these known to exist, all of which are in government hands. In this case, it's reasonable that somebody might have one privately, and that would be a huge find as well. But we'll see when we get there. The next one is the 1928 $10,000 Federal Reserve note. I no longer has the blue seal, but instead, I think it's a really cool note with the kind of more modern looking green seal. There's less than 350 of these surviving today across I'll just fast forward, the 28 and the 34 Federal Reserve notes. And only 8 of those are from 1928, which makes them extremely rare. However, interestingly, that doesn't really make a big difference between their values. It's not like people are collecting the 28s and not the 34s. But they were essentially out of circulation by 1969, but they were long before had kind of disappeared. 1969 brought some efforts to remove $500, $1,000, $5,000, and $10,000 bills, but these did not really get too affected, but at that point they were officially out of circulation. In terms of Salmon Chase, he was the 6th Chief Justice of the United States and also a governor of Ohio, senator from Ohio, and the 25th Secretary of the Treasury under Lincoln. He's one of a few politicians in the United States serving in all 3 branches, the executive, legislative, and judicial branches, and he ensured that the Union was well financed during the Civil War. He's also appearing on the very first $1 bill, so he has a lot of legacy on our United States currency. In terms of the auction prices, 2013, this sold for $210,000. Fast forwarding a little bit, there were some gold certificates, but none of those exist as far as I can tell anymore, maybe in private hands, but this isn't really something that people can get themselves. And then this one is the 1934. They don't have any star notes. The replacement notes are noted by a lighter color ink. And as you can see, the serial numbers are very low. This one sold for $55,000 in 2003. And then a similar one that was in much better condition, 66. Also, Kansas City was the rarest, but that one sold for $384,000 last year in 2020. And that marks the most expensive small size currency ever sold. So this is really a desirable note, as are any of these $10,000 bills. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the presentation. Hope that you enjoyed, and it's just interesting to kind of have a blast from the past and learn more about these rare, significant bills in United States history. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe for more content, and get in touch with me on my website, treasuretownYT.com, Facebook, Treasuretown, Instagram @TreasuretownYT, or Twitter @Treasuretown_YT, and I'll look forward to seeing you on some of my future vids.